The establishment would rather lose an election before they lose a check.
Absolutely. Easily, 100%.
They prop up these candidates who are fundraisers, but not policy folks. And that's why we're not seeing the change we need in DC. It's because all these people are essentially, they're the high school jocks. They can raise money. They can raise dollars, but they don't know how to raise change.
How are you doing? Introduce yourself to the less politically educated in the audience, please.
Hey, everybody. My name is Salamati. I'm a public interest lawyer. I used to work at the Virginia Poverty Law Center. But before that, Vosh, I was a child of immigrants. But I mean, I still am a child of immigrants. But, you know, we grew up poor. We needed programs like WIC and free school meals to help make ends meet. I'm sure a lot of y'all in the audience had to benefit from that. And it's there for us to utilize to get by and get through. I helped veterans when I was in my law school's veterans clinic. And I saw firsthand, like, this was post 9/11, and it was all about, you know, support our troops. We love our troops, rah, 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 all this money going into there. But as soon as they became veterans, we kind of just forgot about them. And like the Veterans Administration was just god awful. And then I worked at the Virginia Poverty Law Center, where we fought and won for tens of thousands of families. We were able to make legislation and lead coalitions that expanded SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, for 25,000 families. And Vosh, we got that done with a unanimous vote from Democrats and Republicans in the state assembly without having to give up an inch. We made the roadmap to universal school meals in Virginia and got the reduced price program. We got that subsidized. So it expanded free school meals for tens of thousands of kids. We repealed a racist law known as the drug felony ban, did a bunch of other stuff. We made snapscreener.com, which over 2.5 million families have used across the country to unlock over $100 million from SNAP and WIC benefits. And then I moved national. I went to the Food Research and Action Center. Also, the acronym is known as FRAC. And for those 2 years, I was like, what the frack is going on? Because Republicans were just tearing up the country. We fought a Republican-led farm bill. We fought that big, ugly bill. And now we're running for Congress because, hey, like Thanos says, I'm just going to do it myself.
I've been told fracking is bad. I'm very confused right now.
Yeah, I know that the name was before fracking was a thing.
Politics is nuanced. So you're an overachiever. Like, we don't have enough of those to compare ourselves to. Pretty young too, certainly as House members would go. You're 40, right? Or 39?
40, yep.
It's a good 40 too. I feel like, you know, you could fool some people with that. That's good.
I sometimes forget. And so, like, and Vosh, the 3 questions I get at the doors are, how old are you? Do you take corporate PAC money? And do you take APAC money? And when I tell them 40, no, they're like, you've got our vote.
Yeah, that'll do it. At least that would do it for me. It's, you know, I'm not one of those principally opposed to 80-year-olds. You know, Bernie Sanders. I mean, I think he should retire because he's old and he deserves it. But no, it's just there's a bit of a bias right now in the demographic makeup age-wise in our Congress. So it's, you know, it's good to see a bit of pushback against that. I want to talk to you about a variety of things. Normally, when I talk to progressive candidates, they're running in blue districts. You are not. You are running in a narrowly red, I mean, arguably at this point, like dead purple, like basically coin flip district. And I want to ask some frank questions. So I know politically I prefer you. There's no question. Anyone watching through me would agree with that. But I want to know, how do you feel you would square up in the general? It's a 50-50 district, more or less. Whitman's been there for a while, since I think 2007. And you are, unless I'm misremembering, and I've drastically misread your Wikipedia page, you're young, you're Muslim, which at least to some Americans seems to be a bit of a damning point. How do you feel you would do in a general in VA1?
Yeah, I was talking with somebody out in the eastern part of the district, the more rural part. And he said, you know, he's a Democratic leader out there. And he said to me, Salam, I wasn't sure about your electability. But when I met you and I heard you and I saw your experience and your vision, I knew you were the guy. And so that is the common refrain we're seeing, especially in the rural parts of the district where people might think, will these folks vote for a brown guy? You know, they are so sick and tired of Rob Whitman that they're going to vote for whoever is offering them something better. And it's not, you know, we have the whole slate of 7 candidates offering something better, but I'm the one with the experience that actually can say, hey, we've actually done this kind of stuff that helped people no matter their political background, and we're going to take this forward.
Yeah, Whitman's approval rating has been dropping slowly and steadily over his tenure. I believe now I've seen polling vary around like maybe -5 or -6% in terms of approval.
Mhm.
And it's been growing too, that divide. So it is a good chance to take advantage.
And Vosh, also for the viewers who may not be familiar with Whitman, he went viral just a few weeks ago. He took that fake phone call
Mhm.
while he was walking away from a reporter. So, in case you may not know who Whitman is,
I
that's
forgot about that. Thank you, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. I saw
yeah.
that on Twitter. He continued the fake phone call for like a minute, right? Like he was
Yeah.
really leaning. What was he avoiding talking about?
I believe it was the Social Security cuts.
No wonder, right? Like they never, even the deadest red of Republicans don't want to admit what they have done and what they're going to do to Social Security. God, I completely forgot about that connection. That's really funny. Okay, there's some recent drama in your race that I was only informed of right before I suppose right as I woke up, where the DCCC has, in my opinion, very improperly dipped their toe into this election and expressed a preference for Shannon Taylor, probably your lead, challenger for the primary seat. Can you explain this drama? Can you explain what led up to it and why you think that's an issue for the viability of the candidate in this race?
Yeah, so the DCCC, the congressional arm of the Democratic Party, came in and endorsed Shannon Taylor quite early on in the primary, and this is at a time when we had about 10 candidates in the race, so competitive primary. What they should have done is just waited to see who the voters would choose and just fully support who the voters choose. But instead, what they did is without visiting the first district and seeing the entirety makeup of it, they anointed somebody who had just lost a race for the attorney general. And not just the general, she actually lost in the primary. And Vosh, this was very concerning because she lost due to principally taking $800,000 from Dominion Energy, the energy company out here, at a time when people's energy bills were going through the roof. So it's a very poor judgment call from a candidate to take that large sum of money. Now, a lot of people didn't really understand why would the energy company make this historic investment, historic donation or contribution to a candidate. But then the other shoe dropped just a few months ago, long after the election was over, that Dominion was planning a merger with NextEra to become a massive monopoly in the energy space. So of course, Dominion's going to give the person who was the favorite to be Virginia's top lawyer a large sum of money so that they stay out of this merger. So that is really troubling. Another thing that's also troubling for the DCCC choosing this person is that she just prosecuted a case against a NICU nurse who is on video. She broke the bones of 9 premature babies. And this prosecutor agreed to a 3-year plea deal. That's not even a year per baby. So people are mortified across the state, across the district. Yeah, so that's bad. And that's just like surface level. And we've got people converting to us. They're like, hey, you're actually the guy who's got the experience fighting for us on the basic needs. And they're wondering, wait, Salamati, why aren't you the one who's getting the support from the party? And I tell them, I'm like, listen, our policy priorities, Medicare for all, tax the billionaires, get big money out of politics, they all impact the donor class. And we're also pro-Palestine. So, of course, the party's not going to be supporting us.
Yeah, so I understand. I know that the DCCC picks favorites. I'm aware that they have meddled in races before. I think it's very undemocratic for them to do that. You should at least wait to see how the voters feel. But in particular, for VA1, this is not a deep blue district. The preference of the DCCC, to me, actually makes a candidate more vulnerable to the general. If you ask the people of Virginia 1 to pick between whose political side they would rather take, Trump's MAGAs versus Hakeem Jeffrey versus the establishment Democrat, I feel like that's a clean sweep for Trump. I feel like the worst thing they could do for their candidate in the general is say, this is the Jeffries pick. This is the establishment pick. So it seems like a classic case of Democrats trying to advantage themselves over progressives and hamstringing themselves in the general. We see the same thing in Michigan in the Senate race right now. The drama I was referring to is that 4 Democrats wrote a letter to the state chair asking for a reaffirmation of neutrality in this race. Were you one of those 4?
I was, yeah.
Please, can you explain why?
Yeah, and we actually even had put a letter out when the DCCC did the red to blue as well. We put out a statement at that same time of, saying, hey, we just had a No Kings rally, and here you are anointing a candidate. Let the people vote. And so what happened recently was that the DCCC collaborated with a candidate that they endorsed to put out a video of a really poor job in the media on talking about their race. So it's just like, hey, we want all of the county parties, all of the Democratic parties in the respective counties, they're all neutral. They, again, every single newsletter they send out, they're saying we're neutral. We're not doing anything to promote any candidate. We're only going to be sharing what they give to us. And we want to make sure that the state party commits to that neutrality as well, because there are some folks within the state party who are closely aligned with that candidate as well. So it's like, it's very dirty in the back end. And we want to make sure that neutrality is expressly stated.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes the establishment Democrats get jealous of the fact that Trump is basically the kingmaker in the Republican Party. Whoever he picks goes, and that's just how it is over there. But that's also a very undemocratic way of deciding who wins in their primaries. We are, I think nominally we're supposed to be better. Theoretically, we're supposed to be better, No, it's very, very unfortunate. And I feel like we're at risk of like the worst case scenario here, both for my sanity and for the people of VA01, which is if Shannon Taylor wins and then she just gets crushed. She like Whitman overperforms relative to previous elections. And then it's like, okay, what do we learn? Well, nothing we're going to apply next time. That's for sure.
Right. And listen, when you're running a centrist, that's essentially running Republican light. Why would Republicans want to vote for a Democrat when they can just vote for a Republican who's the same with an R next to their name, right? And what we've seen from Pew Research reports that in a midterm, Republicans don't convert. Maybe some of them will, but not enough convert for Democrats to win. It's all about voter turnout. So the way we turn out voters is exactly what our campaign is doing, which is talk to policies that impact the voters, not some high level wonky marginal things that are incrementally going to change their lives, but really let's go in, man. My policy issues are root busting issues. We don't have time to attack symptoms anymore. We got to go all in. We got to understand that poverty is a policy choice. And we don't need poverty. So let's go and get rid of it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that the chasing, this is like Schumer's mentality, right? He imagines like two Republicans, right? He will, for every Democrat we lose by running a centrist, we pick up two Republicans, which is not how this works. We've learned, we learned in 2020 in Georgia, for example, the overwhelming importance of voter mobilization, right? The real problem the Democrats have is not that Republicans don't agree with them. Republicans are electorally unmotivated by reason. We just judging from the candidates and policies they support, really don't think they're that motivated by logic, just by and large. I'm just making a general statement here. But there are loads of people who are, in some form or another, to some extent, sympathetic to Democratic policies, in the same way that when you ask people their positions on specific policies, like, for example, strengthening Social Security or reforming the VA or Medicare for all, depending on how you phrase it, and you get far more people supporting these individual policies than you do the Democrats broadly, what really matters is mobilizing people to turn up. And it seems like the Democrats keep relearning and then forgetting this lesson because it's convenient to them, it's convenient when it works in their favor in the general, but then when you get to the primary, it's like, which primary candidate would attract the most Republican voters, as if that's on the table.
Right. That's what we saw with Kamala Harris going around with Liz Cheney instead of union leaders. We're not going to replay that failed playbook. It's about going around with the working families, with the working class folks, talking to them, and also taking out the paternalism. It's like, oh, you have an issue, here's your solution. It's more about, you have an issue, well, what would you like to do? How would you like to solve it? And how can we use our seat to empower that? And one of the things we did when I was at the Virginia Poverty Law Center was create something called the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund. It was $500,000 that was set aside where anybody around the state, which is, Virginia's a huge state, people could address the food desert by offering some proposal, and the state would provide grant funding. Because we knew there's no one size fits all solution. You can't say everybody needs to do this, but everybody could say, oh, this will work in our community. And that's exactly what happened. We had some amazing grants come through that helped, like a farmer in Hanover get a fridge so she's able to sell her product throughout the year outside of the season. We saw another one outside in a desert area who was able to get a juice cart so he could provide healthier juices and healthier fruit options and on a mobile setting. So lots of different ways where the government can reinvest the money into the people with some great projects.
No, yeah, I agree with your statement that policy choices lead to poverty, or more specifically, that poverty is a choice. You know, we've long since met and surpassed the productive efficiency necessary to make sure everyone can enjoy a decent standard of living. We're well past that point. That was a while ago. Now, every homeless person, everyone who lives in poverty, there were choices that led to that. I feel like it's kind of like a parallel issue to the apathy, right? People don't turn up to vote because they feel like they get the same outcome no matter who wins. And the reason they get those outcomes is because both parties, the Republicans and the establishment Democrats, are committed to an economic paradigm that takes no responsibility for its outcomes, for the poverty, for the inequality. And that makes people apathetic. It makes people feel like, well, why even bother? Why show up? The outcome's going to be the same either way. And it's sad. I feel like cutting through that apathy is really tough, but it's also like the essential project of the party, which is why I appreciate you. I think a lot of people would kind of be self-conscious to say poverty is a choice, like a policy choice, not a personal choice, of course.
Yeah.
People, you know, because they feel like that implies kind of a broader worldview than a lot of people want to take a stance on.
You know, case in point, expanded child tax credit during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody marveled about it because it cut child poverty in half. And I was like, wait a second, we only stopped at half? You could have added a zero and cut child poverty entirely? And then you put a sunset clause on that expansion so that when it went away, child poverty not only came back, but it was worse. So again, it's a policy choice. We can end
you look at like allocation of resources. The state, ultimately, they produce the currency. They have control over these decisions, over what happens. You have like three sectors. You have the government and its debt and its funding, its assets and its, you know, its total balance sheet. You have the majority of people, say the bottom 99%, and then you have the 1%. Every year, the 1% get upset. It's like, where's the money going? And we all know where the money's going. People are getting poorer. The government is in debt, and the 1% are ungodly, unfathomably wealthy. Like it's informed simplicity. It's not rocket science. It's pretty easy to figure out what's going here. And we impose policies that allow for this. That could not have happened in the 1950s when we had a much higher upper tax bracket and different monopoly laws. We made these choices. Anyway, I ramble. For your race, I'm actually asking here, I'm not pitching the question hypothetically. I genuinely want to know, do you have any upcoming panels or debates that you're looking forward to? I know you had a panel on the 28th of June recently.
Yeah, we did. I don't think we have any forums. We have a summer picnic happening this Saturday where a lot of the candidates will be. We don't have any forums. It's really going to be different county groups, county Democrat groups who have set up just, picnics and stuff like that.
So, yeah, tell me about that. That sounds like perfect Virginia style. Virginia, it's the love state, right? Tell me the vibe.
Virginia is for lovers. I'll tell you what, people can follow on social media. We post our agenda every single week on Instagram and Facebook. We pin that post of where we're going to be every single day because we want to be super accessible. And then every Saturday or Sunday, depending on the weekend, we do coffee chats in the morning at a local coffee shop, not a corporate place, but a local shop. So that's one way for people to get in touch with us. If they can't attend, any day is during the week. But so, for example, on the 18th, we have the King and Queen County Summer Picnic. That's going to be at 5 o'clock in Shackelford, Virginia. That's up on our Instagram. We have the Blue Wave Cookout on the 25th. I don't know where that is.
Yeah, okay, I see it. Wow, you have this really well laid out. Yeah, I'll show this on stream after we're done here because I don't have the computer know-how to show you and it at the same time, but we'll go over it. You have a pretty well laid out schedule here. That's nice. That's good. I love the like re-engagement with local, like the importance of just going to your local coffee shop, to use your example. DC is so technocratic, like people feel basically no connection to their local reps, which is, obviously really, really bad for democracy. You've been having good conversations out there, like good vibes, the people you talk to?
Yeah, and honestly, it's surprising. Sometimes people will travel an hour or two just to come meet at a coffee chat. And that really, it humbles me. I'm like, whoa, people are actually out there looking for change and coming and attracted to it. We've had some great conversations with parents who are very concerned about technology in the classroom. So we learned about a petition that got really popular in the Henrico County area. So we want to promote that. When we were out in Northumberland part of the county, we learned about the Little Wacomico River, which is a federal channel. The jetty is a federal channel, and it's been neglected for many years. It needs dredging. And so when we learned about that and that there was a petition for it, again, it wasn't me offering a solution. It was me taking an existing solution and promoting that on our social media. And that generated a lot of buzz of people of my audience signing on to the petition. Even a Republican said, you know, I don't really like your other policies, but I can see myself voting for you just because you raised this. So there's a lot happening where people in the rural parts of the district have been forgotten, and they are very excited that somebody is speaking to them and their issues.
Oh, looks like you've got another future voter there with a question.
Yeah, he's my secondary campaign manager who wants the TV remote.
Oh, many such cases.
Why do you take the top?
So you wouldn't press the find a remote button and make it beep while I'm in the call. How dare I?
No, I mean, getting really local with the constituents then. No, I agree. Speaking of kids, the tech in the classroom one I think is actually a really under-discussed one. I've seen a lot of like very local, like municipal buzz about this, where parents are like, please God, stop giving our 4-year-olds iPads. And then the school district is like, nah, we can't. We've forgotten how to. We've forgotten how to read books or whatever. Really, really great stuff.
It's a big issue because obviously the schools are underfunded. There's a lot of holes, a lot of gaps in funding because the wealthy simply are not paying their fair share. And so then what the wealthy do is they give all this technology to the schools, and parents or schools are just like, oh, this is so kind and generous of them. When really it's all for a bigger reason. You know, they want to dumb down the critical thinking. They want to
surveil. They're like logging info. They're listening to the kids say they want ice cream, and then they're directing the ice cream trucks on a local route to optimize how much of mom's money they take. It's very sinister.
Yeah, and meanwhile, their children are not attached to any devices.
No, no. If you're sending your kid off to like a nice private school, they're out there with the old textbooks, you know. Not to suggest that the average wealthy child is an academic overperformer. In my experience, a lot of them are just there to party. I mean, not in like elementary school, but later on. But yeah, no, I think that like it's such a good microcosm of the problem. You have underfunded public systems. Everyone agrees something needs to be done, and then the wealthy people or corporations through private grants or partnerships or whatever step in with a half solution that is maybe preferable to no money or support at all, but ultimately serves their interests. And then everyone's like, well, what are you going to do? Not have the surveillance iPads with the 5-year-olds?
Yep. And then on top of that, here in Virginia, we're the data center capital, not of America, but of the world. So we have a bigger issue with regards to the loss of jobs that are coming down the pike. We also have Amazon is headquartered in Virginia. And what we've seen, and I don't know if you know about this, Vosh, but when Amazon is exploring where they're going to set up their headquarters versus where they're going to set up their warehouses, they look at the test scores of the schools. So if a school has lower test scores, that neighborhood is getting a warehouse. If they have higher test scores, that's more ripe for their headquarters. So it's really sinister what they're doing out there.
That's really grim. That's very like building the pipeline, like the building, sort of the modern equivalent of building jails in the same neighborhoods as like the, lower average income per capita neighborhoods. Like they just know, they're just saving time, basically, from their perspective. That's really grim. The data center thing is another perfect example of this, right? Overwhelming local opposition, and it doesn't matter. If you want a bridge built, if you want a pothole fixed, congratulations, you've just committed yourself to 2 years of town hall meetings. But if you want to smack a data center down, it literally doesn't matter. They just appear like overnight.
And literally after this is done, I'm heading over to a county meeting about the Google data center that's coming into Chesterfield County.
How do you think that one's going to go? Google? That seems like a pretty tough bid to fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's most likely going to go through. I think the Board of Supervisors have voted for it already, but people are very angry. They're very upset. And this is one of the bipartisan issues throughout our district. Northern Virginia is a data center alley, and our district is being considered to be the second data center alley. So Democrats, Republicans, Independents are all calling for something. So we've been outspoken in regards to a moratorium on data centers. We got to stop building them. We got to stop giving these tax incentives. We got to really go back to the drawing board and see what's the intelligent way of doing this so that it protects the environment and it protects jobs.
pardon my memory, if I remember correctly, Virginia is actually the one state that taxes electricity consumption for data centers. Is that correct?
Yes, but at a lower rate than than people. And so what happens is there's some agreement made with the data centers that we, the people, are responsible for their usage. So we are not even the only ones who are using the data centers. It's the whole world using these data centers. And when the whole world is using these data centers, the people of Virginia are the ones responsible for the bill. So it's incredibly troubling, especially at a time where tech usage is increasing day by day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like we're developing the grid to match. So pretty soon, you know, you're going to have to limit your online campaigning to 10 minutes a day as the rolling brownouts make your computer unusable at other times. It's actually it's not quite that bad. It's pretty bad though. You know, I mean, after that recent heat wave, I know one of the big electricity providers across the eastern seaboard was like, we got very close to just shutting down service to a bunch of households. We were really close to like a cascading power failure because of course it's never as simple as just like a temporary outage. You've like rolling outages because like one you know power relay is overwhelmed, so it shuts down, and then the next one shuts down, and these can potentially be like really dangerous. I mean, you can you know infrastructure power losses, dams, streetlights, and we by and large we don't talk about this stuff. You know, it's really fundamental, like literally keeping the lights on stuff, but it's all being supplanted by, I don't know, whatever's going on in Congress right now. What are we voting on? Whether to merge our military with Israel's? Whatever we're up to at the moment.
Right. And then also, you know, we are in the South. You know, the Richmond area is southern United States. So should we have to have these brownouts, then especially in the summer, I mean, that is deadly. It gets to over 100 degrees we've been seeing as of late, and this is just early summer. So we're in for a very rough time, especially if these brownouts have to happen. We have a Nest thermostat, so it has like the energy saving settings, and the afternoons in the house are like 78 degrees, but in a data center, it's probably a cool 69.
Oh no, for sure, 100%. Cool, lightly taxed 69, no less.
And you know what? I am strongly considering registering myself as a data center, so I can get these tax breaks and get my thermostat down to 69.
Yeah, you gotta like mine Bitcoin. There has to be some amount of local Bitcoin mining you can do. Where technically, I mean, good luck getting the graphics cards you need. I'm sure you could make it happen. It's like incorporating a religion of one for tax benefits or something. You know, however the incentives play out.
Yep. That's right.
I by the way, I say because I mentioned, you know, what Congress is up to. I like that watermelon embroidered onto your shirt.
Yes, sir. That's my magnet. It's I take this everywhere I go.
Has it led to some good conversations out there in the campaign trail?
So sometimes we're in like a forum where we only have like 30 seconds to answer questions. And I always try to say something about, you know, we need to get AIPAC to stop funding our candidates or end the genocide in Gaza. And the times I don't get to mention it, people come up to me and say, hey, I saw your watermelon pen. I really appreciate what you're doing. And thank you for calling that out without even saying something. And I'll tell you this, Vosh, when I was in Lancaster County last year, it's Eastern Virginia, rural part. I'm looking at a crowd of about 150 older white Democrats. So in my head, I'm like, they're conservative Democrats. I'm doing my stump speech. They're liking it. And I'm getting to my last point, and I'm like, I don't know how this group is going to like what I'm about to say, but it's my campaign. I got to say it. So I said, and for God's sake, we need to end the genocide in Gaza. Vosh, that got the biggest applause of the night. And people came up to me afterwards saying, thank you for saying that, because we've been waiting for the party to say something. We also saw a poll done just a few months ago that showed that rural Democrats in Virginia are very upset with the party for not condemning the genocide and for continuing to take money from the pro-Israel lobby. So people are seeing it. They're seeing that we're sending billions of dollars over there to kill kids and bomb houses, when at the same time the government's saying we don't have the money to teach our kids or to build housing here.
Yeah, no, I think like there's been an enormous effort on the part of establishment Democrats to underestimate how much people care about this, and also to frame it as a kind of like secondary foreign policy issue. At the end of the day, you know, as deeply entrenched as it is, support for Israel from centrist Democrats is a special interest issue. It's the same kind of problem, really, we've been having forever in politics. This one's just really big and really magnified, and there's a lot of attention on it. If a person's really beholden to a special interest, you can't trust them in general. It's like what you said earlier with taking a bunch of money from a local power company. It's not innately morally harmful to take money from a power company, but the implication is they're giving it to you for a reason. There's a reason people do things. It's very basic politics. If a person's being super deferential to Israel in a way that doesn't seem to reflect the interests of their constituency or of the country, it suggests a susceptibility to special interests. It just frustrates me when people talk about it like it's exclusively foreign policy. Support for the Iraq War wasn't just foreign policy. It came with a slate of support for no bid contracts from the Pentagon to military corporations. It came with a suppression of free speech in the media, where if you questioned the war, you were, attacked. It came with the Patriot Act. It came with a bunch of other stuff. Everything is intertwined. So yeah, I despite the many efforts to castigate pro-Palestinian support, I imagine a lot of people are happy to see it. I imagine a lot of people are frustrated that this, widely popular position is still held so harshly among Democrats.
Yeah, and you mentioned, post 9/11 era of all the legislation that passed that really rolled back civil liberties. ICE was a product of all of that. ICE is not this American institution that's going back 100 years. It's like 20 some years old. And what we saw is that it was created in a place where due process is not at its foundation, dignity is not at its foundation. So when you have something that's created out of such a seed, we see the monstrosity that it's become. And so that's why we're calling for the replacement of ICE with an agency that's founded in due process, justice, and dignity. It can be done. We just didn't do it. And we made something that is the Slave Patrol 2.0.
Yeah, we did it for like 200 years. Border Patrol under the AG. We had a working system. No, you're right. And there's an almost perfect overlap, too, between Democrats who voted to show appreciation to ICE for all the good work they've done, and Democrats who are very, very deferential to Israeli special interests, to AIPAC, or to, continuing to send them weapons. So again, it's all interconnected. I think that people are just generally frustrated with the feeling that their vote doesn't matter, and that there's a totally separate set of interests dictating the behavior of people in Congress. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, we agree on that. I guess it's just a matter of how well you can pitch your case to not only the Democrats in VA1, but to the general population. Because it would be, I mean, I'm sure it would be a resounding message to the country if you not only won in the primary, but then went on to win in the general. That would be huge. Unprecedented, even, for the progressive to win out, and then in a purple district to crush a longtime Republican incumbent. That would be huge.
Yeah. And so we've got a really interesting general election ahead of us. We got Mark Warner, who's running for re-election for U.S. Senate at the top of the ticket. And then we've got 3 ballot measures for constitutional amendments, which I'm forgetting all of them, but one's about, protecting reproductive freedom. Another one is about voting rights. And the third one is about marriage equality, if I recall correctly. So very important ballot measures that are going to bring out so many voters. So a lot of disenfranchised voters we believe are going to come out for those 3 ballot measures. We've gotten a lot of Gen Z folks volunteering with our campaign, whether it's online or via phone banking or through canvassing at the doors, such that when the high schoolers are knocking on doors of like 70-year-olds, the 70-year-old is like, I'm going to vote for whoever you're excited about. So it's really cool to see that happening.
That is really sweet. I personally, I have a bit of a grudge in this as well, like a personal bias, because there was a lot of bad lesson taking after Spanberger's victory for the governorship, which, Spanberger has, in my opinion, almost immediately sort of shown her hand towards capitulating to centrist interests. The wave of vetoes that she did against the interests of the Democrats in the state legislature, really disappointing. But the lesson a lot of people were pushing after that, motivated people, they were saying, oh, well, here's how you win in Virginia. Go centrist. And I think that's horseshit. I think that Spanberger won off of an ailing Republican, base. They are increasingly unpopular, but I don't think that makes it impossible for progressives to win. I think that if anything, progressives have the better case to make because they're less tied down by the weight of the Democratic establishment and its overwhelming unpopularity.
But also her opponent was Winsome Sears. Anybody could have won against Winsome Sears.
Especially after Doge fired so many federal workers
Yeah,
who work in
yeah.
the suburbs outside of DC and Virginia. Like it was an environment favorable to her. But the lesson here is not
Mhm.
progressives shouldn't even be considered. I think that's
Right.
maybe why the DCCC was preemptively supporting, you know, your opponent in the primary, right? They really
Mhm.
don't want for there to be a lesson here, right? That progressives can do well in these seats. They want it to exclusively be the purview of, you know, moderates.
I'll say this. We put this in a newsletter recently that the establishment would rather lose an election before they lose a check.
Absolutely,
And so,
easily, 100%, every time. Yeah.
they prop up these candidates who are fundraisers, but not policy folks. And that's why we're not seeing the change we need in DC. It's because all these people are essentially, they're the high school jocks. They can raise money, they can raise dollars, but they don't know how to raise change.
And in contrast, you promise, and this is a campaign pledge, you have $0. You're free entirely from monetary influence.
Oh no, we've raised over $270,000 from over 2,900 contributions.
Sounds like corruption to me. I don't know.
You know what? I'm owned by the people.
By the $17 average donation people, by the people of Virginia. It's not a bad, special interest group to be beholden to, the voters.
That's why we're a public interest lawyer and not a special interest one.
Yeah, it is quite fitting you up against, in particular up against an attorney general, right? Sort of a difference in perspectives there.
A Commonwealth attorney. Now, I'll tell you what, we've got over 400 volunteers signed up, and Progressive Victory is coming through very soon, starting July 19th through August 4th primary with phone banking. So folks are most welcome to join via the PV Discord to take part in that. And I'm going to be taking part as well. I love calling people. I love being in community with volunteers and doing it. So we'll have a lot of fun when we're doing these phone bankings.
I can't possibly overstate how much I want to see you win, and I cannot overstate how much I want to see people in my community. Please go and phone bank and volunteer and donate. Please, I don't want to keep you forever. I think that everyone well likes you at this point. Give us your final pitch, give us your pointers, and I'll close it out directing people to do whatever they can to support you.
And let me drop a Lord of the Rings reference. And also, let me also say, Vosh and I did not coordinate our outfits.
No, but it worked out pretty good, huh?
It worked out really well. Yeah, you got good style, man.
Hey, thank you. I don't have the watermelon though, so I'm kind of getting mogged right now.
You can go to equalityentrance.com and get your own set of magnets.
Okay. Thank you.
So, a lot of people ask along the trail, like, what is it that's keeping you going? And I like to reflect on this incident between Gandalf and Frodo. When Frodo in the book, Fellowship, he was leaving the Shire, and he says to Gandalf, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened." And Gandalf says, "So do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All they have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to them." And running for office with my lived experience and professional experience is what I've decided to do with the time that's given to me, instead of just, thinking that it all has to happen this way. So as we go forward in these final few weeks, we've developed a wonderful fellowship that's understanding that we're taking this ring of terror, of horror, and we're taking it to DC to throw it into the very fires of whence it's come. And I cannot do it alone. So as the sun is setting on this version of America, and we're left wondering in the darkness of this night, who's going to come save us? My dear friends, it's us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And I'm waiting for all of you to join us on this journey as we work and struggle and fight for that new sunrise on a new nation that is going to serve us. We've been told, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. But now is the time to ask, what can my government do for me? And that forefront of our mind is Medicare for all. But I cannot do it alone. I need you in this final few weeks. If all of you who are watching donated $5, $10, I wouldn't have to call anybody ever again. I could be on the doors doing exactly what you want me to do, which is winning this election. So come through, volunteer with the phone bank through Progressive Victory. If you're in town, come knock doors. And if you can't do anything, if you can put in a few bucks, we're going to get that win.
Now, I have to add as an addendum to this, and I apologize for attempting to engage in a gotcha. Have you read the book?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You win. I haven't.
And it was Glorfindel, not Arwen, who rescues Frodo. So that's...
When I get around to reading it, I'll fact check you on that.
Yeah, that's it.
I really appreciate you taking the time. I really hope you kick ass out there.
I appreciate it, man. And Salamati VA is my handle online. Salam4VA is my website. Salam4VA.com.
Take care. We'll do all we can, and have a good one.
Thanks, Vosh. Thanks, y'all.
I think that went pretty good. That was I was feeling a bit of a rapport there, in my opinion. Maybe it's like the age, like we're close enough. I feel like there's a sort of synchronicity in cadence. That was pretty good, in my opinion. That was a good interview. That was fun. Yeah, seriously, do what you can with PV. Please phone bank, donate. I really mean it. We don't have a lot of polling data on the VA1 primary, but I think that if he makes it through, I think that he has a good chance against Whitman. It would be like seismic nationwide if he was to win, because it would be a crystal clear example of a progressive beating out not only the centrist in a purple district, but beating out the Republican. It would be absolutely huge. It would be massive. So please do what you can.